Jiho Kim stood nervously at the entrance to the Galactic Cooperative Academy, clutching his small bag of belongings. The massive crystalline building towered above him, its architecture unlike anything on Earth. Today marked a historic moment, the first group of human students accepted into the most prestigious educational institution in the galaxy. "Remember, you represent all of humanity," his father had told him before he left Earth. Those words echoed in his mind as he took his first steps into the alien hallway. The interior buzzed with activity. Beings of various shapes, sizes, and colors moved purposefully through the corridors. Some floated, others crawled, and many walked on different numbers of limbs. Jiho tried not to stare, but it was difficult. Despite years of preparation for this moment, seeing so many alien species in person was overwhelming. A tall, blue-skinned figure approached. "Human Jiho Kim?" The translator device rendered their complex series of clicks and whistles into English. "Yes, that's me," Jiho replied. "I am Administrator Tlax. Welcome to the Academy. Please follow for orientation." As they walked, Jiho noticed other students giving him curious looks. Some appeared friendly, others dismissive, and a few seemed openly hostile. Tlax led him to a large circular room where several other human students waited. "You are the 7 chosen from Earth," Tlax announced. "The first humans to attend our institution in its 8,000-year history." Jiho nodded at his fellow humans, 3 males and 3 females. One girl smiled back warmly. "I'm Yuna," she whispered as she sat next to him. "Former Olympic gymnast." "You?" "College athlete," Jiho replied. "Track and field." Tlax continued explaining the Academy's history and curriculum. The subjects were fascinating: quantum engineering, multidimensional mathematics, interspecies medicine, and something called consciousness architecture. But one thing was noticeably absent. During the question period, Jiho raised his hand. "Excuse me, but I don't see any physical education courses." Several alien students made sounds that the translator interpreted as laughter. Tlax tilted their head. Physical competition is considered an outdated concept in advanced civilizations. We focus on intellectual and spiritual development. But physical activity helps with cognitive function, Jiho argued. It builds teamwork and stress management skills. "Perhaps on Earth," responded Tlax. "Most species here have evolved beyond such primitive needs." Over the next few weeks, Jiho struggled to adjust. The academic courses were challenging, pushing the limits of human understanding. But he excelled in laboratory sessions where hands-on skills were required. Many alien species, despite their advanced intelligence, lacked the fine motor control that humans took for granted. One evening, while studying in the recreation dome, Jiho noticed a group of young feline aliens with remarkable reflexes, playing a game that involved passing a small object between them. They moved with grace but seemed to lack competitive spirit. "What are they playing?" Jiho asked Yuna, who had become his closest friend. "They call it Harmony Sphere. It's not really a game, more like choreographed movement. No winners or losers." Jiho watched for a while longer. "Don't you miss competing? The thrill of pushing yourself against others?" Yuna nodded. "I've been thinking the same thing. These aliens are brilliant, but they don't understand how physical challenge builds character." The next day, Jiho requested a meeting with Administrator Tlax. After explaining his idea, Tlax seemed skeptical. A human game called Dodgeball as a cultural exchange activity? What educational value would this provide? "It teaches spatial awareness, teamwork, strategy, and quick decision-making," Jiho explained. "Plus, it might help alien students understand human psychology better." Tlax considered this. The Academy values cultural diversity. "I will allow a demonstration, but if it proves disruptive or dangerous, we will terminate the experiment immediately." Word spread quickly. By the time Jiho had permission to use the zero-gravity chamber for his demonstration, most of the Academy knew about the strange human ritual called Dodgeball. Jiho recruited the other human students and borrowed soft foam spheres from the materials lab. He modified the rules to accommodate different physiologies. The insectoid Vrax would be allowed to use multiple limbs, the avian Talani could use their wings, and the gravity settings would be adjusted for species from different homeworlds. On the day of the demonstration, hundreds of curious alien students gathered to watch. Some professors came too, taking notes on what they assumed would be a primitive display of human aggression. As Jiho explained the rules, he noticed mixed reactions. The Vrax seemed dismissive, the Talani uncomfortable, but the Mrik leaned forward with interest. Only time would tell if this human game could bridge the vast cultural gap between Earth and the stars. The zero-gravity chamber had been modified for the Dodgeball demonstration. Jiho stood at the center, 6 soft foam spheres floating around him. Nearly 200 alien students had gathered to watch, their bodies forming a colorful ring around the playing area. The rules are simple, Jiho explained, his voice amplified by the room's acoustic system. 2 teams try to hit players on the opposing team with these balls. If you're hit, you're out. If you catch a ball thrown at you, the thrower is out. A tall Vrax student raised 3 of its 6 limbs. Query: what is the scientific purpose of this activity? It builds reflexes, spatial awareness, and strategic thinking, Jiho replied. Plus, it's fun. The word fun didn't translate well. Several alien species exchanged confused glances. Jiho continued, I need volunteers from each major species to try the game. At first, no one moved. Then Yuna stepped forward, followed by the other human students. Slowly, curious representatives from the Talani, Mrik, and Vrax approached. We will observe this primitive ritual, announced a Vrax named Sik, its mandibles clicking. Our superior reaction time will ensure victory. A graceful Talani with iridescent feathers floated down. I am Nara. I find this concept disturbing, but cultural understanding requires participation. 2 Mrik siblings, Ren and Kara, bounded forward, their feline bodies moving with fluid grace. We accept your challenge, human, purred Ren. Jiho divided them into teams, making sure each had a mix of species. He took a deep breath and tossed the balls into the center of the chamber. What followed was chaos. The Vrax grabbed 3 balls at once with their multiple limbs but threw them with such mathematical precision that they missed the spontaneously moving targets. When a ball came their way, they calculated trajectories so carefully that by the time they decided to move, they were hit. The Talani refused to throw at anyone, considering it aggressive. We do not attack others, Nara explained, holding her ball protectively. When balls flew toward her, she dodged with incredible grace but seemed offended by the very concept. The Mrik were natural athletes, pouncing and leaping with remarkable agility. However, they treated the game as a solo performance rather than a team effort, often colliding with their own teammates. Only the humans played as intended, calling out positions, creating strategies, and working together. After 15 minutes, Administrator Tlax signaled for the game to end. The aliens seemed confused, frustrated, or in the case of the Vrax, calculating what had gone wrong. This activity appears to have little educational value, Tlax concluded. It creates discord rather than harmony. You didn't give us a chance, Jiho argued. Every new skill takes practice. Tlax's skin rippled in what Jiho had learned was their equivalent of a dismissive gesture. The academy focuses on harmony and intellectual growth. This game emphasizes competition and physical dominance. Later that evening, as Jiho sat dejectedly in the dining hall, Kira the Mrik approached his table. Your game intrigues me, she said, her tail swishing. My people once had competitive activities, before we joined the Galactic Cooperative. There is something awakening about it. Competition doesn't have to mean conflict, Jiho explained. It's about pushing each other to improve. Kira tilted her head. Perhaps you could show us again? Not as a formal academy event, but just a few of us who are curious? Jiho's spirits lifted. Of course. The next day, Jiho was surprised to find not only Kara and her brother waiting in the recreation dome, but also Nara the Talani and, most surprisingly, Sik the Vrax. I have calculated that my previous approach was flawed, Sik announced. I require more data. This time, Jiho took things slowly. He demonstrated proper throwing technique to the Vrax, explaining that sometimes instinct worked better than calculation. He showed the Talani that dodgeball wasn't about aggression but about challenge and respect. For the Mric, he emphasized teamwork over individual prowess. As they practiced, something remarkable happened. The aliens began to understand. Six stopped overanalyzing and let his natural reflexes take over. Nara realized that throwing a ball wasn't an attack but an offer of challenge. The Mric started calling out to teammates. Word spread through the academy. Each day, more alien students appeared at the recreation dome, curious about this human game that balanced competition with cooperation. When an academy official came to shut down the unauthorized activity, they found students from 12 different species playing together, communicating across cultural barriers that had existed for centuries. Perhaps, the official reported back to Tlax, there is educational value in this human game after all. Tlax watched the recording of the students playing with interest. Schedule a formal demonstration, they finally decided. I want to see what happens when humans play among themselves. The announcement spread quickly through the academy, human cultural demonstration, dodgeball. By mid-morning, the main athletic chamber was filled with students and faculty from across the galaxy. The floating observation platforms were packed with curious onlookers, their bodies creating a living tapestry of colors, shapes, and textures. Jiho had recruited 6 other human students for the demonstration. They stood in the center of the chamber, dressed in simple athletic wear, red team and blue team. The modified gravity field was set to Earth standard, giving the humans their natural environment while the alien spectators adjusted their personal gravity devices to compensate. Administrator Tlax floated at the official observation station. Begin your demonstration, the administrator announced, voice betraying neither enthusiasm nor disdain. Jiho stepped forward. Today we will show you dodgeball as it is played on Earth. This game develops quick reflexes, strategic thinking, teamwork, and spatial awareness. He turned to his fellow humans. On the red team stood Minsu, Taeyong, and Hyunji. The blue team consisted of Jiho himself, Yuna, Duyun, and Sumin. Each player took position on their side of the clearly marked court. Ready, called Jiho. Both teams nodded. 6 foam spheres were placed at the center line. Jiho gave a sharp whistle, and the game began. What followed stunned the alien audience. The humans exploded into motion, diving for the balls at the center. Minsu reached them first, snatching 2 and backpedaling while his teammates covered his retreat. Meanwhile, Yuna grabbed one for the blue team, while Jiho and Duyun each secured another. The athletic chamber, usually so quiet and orderly, erupted with the sounds of running feet, calls between teammates, and the soft thump of balls hitting bodies or being caught. Left side open. Taeyong called to his red team. I see it. Minsu responded, launching a ball in a curved arc that nearly caught Sumin unaware. At the last possible moment, Sumin dropped to the floor, the ball passing inches above her head. The Mric observers' tails twitched in appreciation of her reflexes. Jiho noticed the Vrax spectators clicking rapidly among themselves, their compound eyes tracking the multiple projectiles with fascination. Their species prided themselves on mathematical precision, yet here were humans calculating complex trajectories instantly, adjusting strategy on the fly. The blue team worked in coordination, with Jiho and Duyun throwing simultaneously from different angles, forcing Hyunji to choose which ball to dodge. She evaded one but was struck by the other, eliminating her from play. Excellent strategy, murmured a Talani professor, their feathers rippling with interest. The red team retaliated with a bold move. Taeyong ran forward, drawing fire, while Minsu used the distraction to eliminate Sumin with a well-placed throw. With each elimination, the remaining players' movements became more intense, more precisely calculated. When Yuna caught a ball thrown by Taeyong, earning his elimination and bringing Sumin back into play, the chamber filled with a strange collection of sounds, the alien equivalent of gasps and applause. The most dramatic moment came near the end. Only Jiho remained on the blue team, facing both Minsu and Taeyong. The red team had him cornered with 3 balls to his none. He is finished, declared a Vrax student confidently. Minsu and Taeyong launched simultaneous throws. In a move that defied the predictions of even the most mathematically advanced species present, Jiho leaped forward between the incoming projectiles, his body twisting in midair to avoid both. He landed in a roll, snatched a ball from the floor, and eliminated Minsu before the red team could react. Now it was 1 against 1. The chamber fell completely silent. Species that had never understood physical competition were suddenly invested in the outcome. Jiho and Taeyong circled each other, each holding one ball, eyes locked in friendly but intense competition. Then came the final exchange, a flurry of throws, dodges, and near misses that happened so quickly many aliens struggled to follow the action. It ended with Taeyong catching Jiho's throw in a spectacular diving grab that brought the alien audience to their feet, or equivalent appendages. As the humans gathered at center court, breathing hard but smiling, they clasped hands in a show of sportsmanship. Jiho looked toward Administrator Tlax, who was conferring rapidly with other faculty members. That, said Kira the Mrik, approaching with bright eyes, was more than a game. It was art. It was mathematical precision without calculation, added Sick, mandibles clicking excitedly. Administrator Tlax floated down to the court. The faculty requires time to discuss what we have witnessed. This activity contains unexpected complexity. Will you allow us to continue? Jiho asked. Tlax's skin rippled in what Jiho had learned might be the beginning of a smile. I believe we must. Many students have already requested to participate in the next session. 3 weeks after the human demonstration, the Academy's main athletic chamber had been transformed. Colorful team banners hung from the walls, and the gravity controls had been programmed to create a neutral field where all species could compete fairly. Students from 12 different planets crowded the viewing platforms, many wearing handmade badges supporting their favorite teams. I never expected this, Jiho said to Yuna as they watched the growing crowd. 24 teams, she replied, checking her tablet. The entire academy has gone dodgeball crazy. The interspecies tournament had begun as a small idea, but with Administrator Tlax's surprising support, it had grown into the biggest cultural event in the academy's recent history. The rules had been carefully modified to account for different physiologies. The many-limbed Vraks were limited to using 2 arms for throwing, while the winged Talani had special rules about flight duration. Welcome to the opening matches of the first Galactic Cooperative Academy Dodgeball Tournament, announced Tlax through the chamber's communication system. This event represents a historic cultural exchange, demonstrating that physical activity can indeed have intellectual and social value. The first match featured Team Cosmic Fury, led by the Mrik siblings Rin and Kira, against Team Quantum Strike, a mixed group that included 6 the Vraks and 2 human students. Teams, take your positions, called the referee, a senior Talani professor who had volunteered despite initial skepticism about the sport. The players moved to their sides of the court. The 6 balls were placed along the center line. A hush fell over the chamber. At the whistle, the match exploded into action. Sick moved with surprising speed for a Vraks, his calculated movements now blending with newly developed instincts. He caught a ball thrown by Kira, his compound eyes tracking its path perfectly. Team Quantum Strike makes the first elimination, called the announcer, a booming-voiced Drelian whose enthusiasm had earned him the position. The crowd erupted in a cacophony of sounds, clicks, whistles, rumbles, and cheers from the human section. Many species had never shown such excitement over a physical competition before. As the tournament progressed through the early rounds, distinct playing styles emerged. The Vraks teams excelled at coordinated attacks, using their mathematical minds to create complex throwing patterns. The Talani, initially reluctant participants, discovered their natural grace made them exceptional dodgers. The Mrik proved to be amazing catchers, their quick reflexes allowing them to snatch balls from the air that seemed impossible to reach. But it was the mixed species teams that performed best. When different biological advantages combined with varied strategic approaches, the results were spectacular. By the semi-final round, only 4 teams remained. Team Galactic Harmony, Team Stellar Surge, Team Cosmic Fury, and Team Nova Force had fought their way through the brackets. Each represented a different combination of species working together. The crowd watched in awe as Team Galactic Harmony, led by Jiho, faced Team Stellar Surge in the first semi-final. The match was intense from the start, with Yuna and a Talani named Nara creating an unstoppable defensive formation while Jiho and Sik launched perfectly timed offensive throws. "Look at that coordination," the announcer boomed as Sik caught a ball, immediately passed it to Jiho, who threw it in one fluid motion, eliminating a Rick opponent. Team Galactic Harmony advanced to the finals, where they would face Team Nova Force, led by Minsu and a remarkably agile Vrax student named Lazor. The final match drew the largest audience yet. Even Academy administrators who had initially opposed the primitive activity now watched with interest. "This is more than just a game," Administrator Tlax confided to another faculty member. "It's become a living laboratory of interspecies cooperation." The final match began with explosive energy. Both teams had developed sophisticated strategies that combined each species' strengths. When Nova Force took an early lead by eliminating two of Galactic Harmony's players, it seemed the match might end quickly. But Jiho rallied his team. "Remember our training. Trust each other." What followed was 5 minutes of the most intense dodgeball ever played in the galaxy. The movements became so fast that some spectators struggled to follow the action. When Sik caught a seemingly impossible throw using 3 of his limbs, a move technically within the rules, the crowd went wild. In the final moments, with the score tied and only 2 players remaining on each side, Nara the Talani performed a move that would be talked about for years to come. As 3 balls flew toward her simultaneously, she twisted her body in a maneuver impossible for most species, caught 1 ball, kicked another away with her foot, and used her wing to deflect the third. Team Galactic Harmony won by a single point, but as the teams met at center court, exchanging the human tradition of handshakes, or appropriate appendage touches, it was clear that something more important had been achieved. Today, Jiho told the gathered players, "We've shown that our differences make us stronger when we work together." 2 months after the tournament, Jiho stood before the Academy's High Council. The 7 most respected educators in the galaxy sat in a semicircle, their diverse forms silhouetted against the massive viewport that showed the glittering nebula beyond. Student Jiho Kim began Chief Administrator Vral, an ancient Talani whose feathers had faded to silver with age. "You have been summoned to hear the Council's findings regarding the Physical Education Initiative." Jiho stood straight, trying to hide his nervousness. What had begun as a simple dodgeball demonstration had evolved into something much larger. For the past 8 weeks, students across the academy had participated in various human physical activities, from dodgeball to relay races to simplified versions of basketball. "Our analysis is complete," continued Vrel. "Administrator Tlax, please share the results." Tlax stepped forward, tablet in hand. "The data is remarkable. Since implementing regular physical education sessions, we have recorded a 27% improvement in problem-solving capabilities across all species. Focus duration has increased by 31%. Most surprisingly, interspecies communication effectiveness has improved by 42%. Jiho tried to maintain his composure, but he couldn't help smiling. Furthermore, Tlax added, incident reports of cultural misunderstandings have decreased by 56%. Students who participate in mixed-species physical activities show significantly higher empathy scores when dealing with beings unlike themselves. The council members exchanged meaningful looks. Chief Administrator Vral leaned forward. "Jiho Kim, for thousands of years, the Galactic Cooperative has approached education as a purely intellectual pursuit. We believe that advanced civilizations naturally evolved beyond physical competition. It appears we were incorrect." Coming from a Talani, this was an extraordinary admission. Their species was known for unwavering certainty in their own correctness. What started as a cultural curiosity has revealed a significant gap in our understanding, Vral continued. The human approach to physical activity contains educational elements we had not recognized. Another council member, a Vrax elder named Ziktal, spoke up. "Your dodgeball game, in particular, has proven fascinating. It combines mathematical trajectory calculation, spatial awareness, team coordination, and split-second decision-making. Rather than being primitive, it is surprisingly sophisticated." Jiho nodded respectfully. "On Earth, we have a saying, a healthy body supports a healthy mind." "Indeed," said Tlax. "Which brings us to the purpose of this meeting. Chief Administrator Vral rose from her seat, her wings extending slightly in a formal gesture. Jiho Kim, the council has voted unanimously to create a new position, Director of Interspecies Physical Education. We are offering this position to you upon your graduation. Jiho blinked in surprise. I'm honored. There is more, Tlax added. The Galactic Education Federation has requested our findings. They are considering implementing similar programs at academies throughout the cooperative. As the meeting concluded and Jiho left the council chamber, he found Yuna waiting for him in the hallway. Well, she asked eagerly. What did they say? As Jiho explained the council's decision, students of various species passed by. Many nodded respectfully to him, the human who had changed academy culture with a simple game. Later that day, Jiho visited the observation deck overlooking the athletic chamber. Below, a fascinating scene unfolded. A group of diplomats from the Galactic Council, the highest governing body in known space, were engaged in what looked like a modified version of Dodgeball. They're using it as a negotiation tool, explained Administrator Tlax, who had quietly joined him. The Vrax and Talani delegations had reached an impasse in their trade discussions. One of our graduates suggested this approach. Jiho watched in amazement as the dignified representatives moved across the court, their formal robes replaced by simple athletic wear. As they played, they called out terms and counteroffers. The physical activity has broken down communication barriers that existed for centuries, Tlax continued. They are finding common ground through play. I never imagined Dodgeball could change galactic diplomacy, Jiho said softly. The simplest ideas often have the most profound impact, Tlax replied. Your contribution will not be forgotten. As they watched, a Vrax diplomat caught a ball thrown by a Talani counterpart. Instead of arguing about the point, both beings made gestures of respect. The game continued, but something fundamental had changed in their interaction. 6 months later, the first Galactic Physical Education Academy opened its doors, with Jiho Kim as its youngest professor. Students from 200 worlds came to learn how physical activities could improve mental function and cross-cultural understanding. And it all began with a human teaching aliens how to play dodgeball. In the great archives of the Galactic Cooperative, a new entry was added to the section on pivotal moments in interspecies relations. Next to accounts of first contacts and major scientific breakthroughs was the simple story of how a human game changed the way the galaxy understood education.